Hello, and welcome to another gem of the Alshich. We open the Alshich to, as we're getting towards the end of the book of the Yikra, Leviticus. Then we come to the Seder, which is known as Behar. Very interesting. So let's start off with reading it in our art scroll. And it says, V'yidaber Hashem al Moshe Behar Sinai Lemor. God speaks to Moses on Mount Sinai. Daber of Israel speaks to the Jewish people, V'amarta Lem, and say to them, Gisoba la'oretz, when you come to the land, Asher ani nosen lachem, which I'm giving to you, V'shavta oretz Shabbos Lashem. The land will celebrate a Sabbath to God. Sheish shanim tizra sadecha. 6 years you can sow your field. Sheish shanim tizra karmecha. Prune your vines, V'asafta estam tv'asa, and gather in all the produce. But in the 7th year, the land lies fallow. So this is a famous concept within the Torah, and it's supposed to be a Sabbath to God. So Rashi says here, and this is something that interests the Alshich, the classic commentator, of course, is Rashi, and he says, Shabbos Hashem, l'shem Hashem. Don't think, as the Alshich says, that the letting the land fallow is in order to, as so often is the case, there's something called crop rotation, that you plant various crops in the field on a rotating basis, so that a particular crop doesn't deplete the minerals and chemicals in that in the soil. So you rotate it so other crops take different stuff. No, it's not. That's nothing to do with this. This is to celebrate a Shabbos Lashem. It's for the sake of Hashem. So the Alshich says something which is interesting, very interesting. And this he says a few times. Here it says that God is giving us the land of Israel, and that's very important in the Hebrew. Asher ani nosen lachem, which I am giving you. It doesn't say I gave you, and this is a bit of a surprise. But the word noten is the present tense form of nosan, given. The land of Israel was never given to the Jewish people. It's being given. It's the difference between owning a house or renting a house. If you rent a house and you keep the conditions of the lease, you get to stay. If you don't, then you can lose your tenancy very quickly. That's no more controversial, incidentally, than the second paragraph of the Shema, and it will be if you keep my laws. The land of Israel was always given on condition that we kept those laws. And the Alshich says here, we're talking, and Rashi says, that the Sabbath of the land, the letting the land lie fallow, stopping working it on the 7th year, is a parallel of the keeping the Sabbath that we do every week, which is there, as Rashi says, to remind us that God created the world. And right at the beginning of the Torah, when Rashi talks about this, the Alshich says, he points out that the reason that we start by saying the story of Bereshit is to make it quite clear that when the non-Jewish nations claim that the Jews stole the land of Israel when they left Egypt and went in to take it, you're supposed to point to Genesis, to Bereshit, where it says that God created this, and it's His. He chose to give it to them, and because of their behavior, child sacrifice, etc., He decided to take it away from them and to give it to us. That's the reason it says Bereshit. It says the Alshich, the same idea is being conveyed in letting the land lie fallow in the 7th year. It's to convey the same message. We believe we have a right to be in the land of Israel because God gave it to us. And as a testament to that fact, that we believe that God gave it to us, we do our bit in doing what God says we should do and letting the land lie fallow. And now, the Jewish Sabbath that we keep weekly, wherever Jews live in the world, you keep Sabbath. You keep Shabbat. Why don't we keep Shemitah? Why don't we let the land lie fallow wherever we are in the land as well, if it does the exact same thing, if it's got the same function? And the Alshich explains because in keeping it in the land of Israel, we're saying we believe this land belongs to us because God gave it to us, or rather God is giving it to us. And as long as we're keeping the conditions of the lease, then we can be quite sure that we get to stay there. If God forbid, as we've historically done sadly several times before, we break the condition of the lease, we run the risk of losing it. That's why it starts off by emphasizing that this is a Shabbat to God. The reason we're doing it is to reconnect with our belief that God made the whole world, He owns it, and He gave this land to us because we keep the laws of His Torah. I wish you all a very good Shabbos.